The Premier League has an American issue. With more and more American owners entering into the Premier League, we are seeing massive issues arise within it. With owners like the Glazers, Textor, Todd Boehly, ALK Capital, Fenway Sports Group, and Kroenke, we do see issues arising. Now, Kroenke is one of the better owners, and I'll explain more about that later. But if you're looking for a team like Manchester United, who were the most dominant team in the world, in the sports world in terms of football, the Glazers came in and blew it up. And if you really look at how they own their NFL team, the Buccaneers, you can kind of see the same thing. It's kind of quick success over long-term success. You know, the Buccaneers bring in Tom Brady, leverage the entire future of the team, and now look at them now. They've got Baker Mayfield, and that's about it. But the Glazers took the same approach as they did with Man United, where let's kind of get this short-term success, extract as much money as we can out of it, put the team into debt, capitalize on gaining from the debt, and just hurt the fans overall. And you can see the American mindset where it is, let's make this a sports franchise and not just a football club. And I think that's a big issue that we're starting to see. We see other instances of bad American sports philosophy being brought into the Premier League. John Textor at Crystal Palace is looking to either sell his stake or buy complete control of Crystal Palace. If he does sell his stake, he wants to buy with Everton. But the issue is he owns Lyon, Botafogo in Brazil, and Molenbeek in Belgium, and he wants to create a multi-club system where players can transfer in between them freely, players can be loaned in between them pretty freely, and have freedom of movement. And that's a very big American sports concept. If you look at sports franchises like in the NHL, for example, they have the NHL, the AHL, the ECHL, and so on and so forth, where players can move from the ECHL to the AHL, from the AHL into the NHL, but every single team is affiliated with another team. And that's how they would move that. Say, like in baseball, right? If you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, for example, they have the Buffaloes, and they have a double A team and a single A team, a low A team. And players move from low A to high A to double A to triple A to the MLB. Again, but they're all affiliated with one team, so they can't be moved to other teams for free. And that's what he's kind of wanting to implement here. And again, that kind of ruins what the transfer market is for the Premier League and football as a whole. And it would really diminish what we get out of it, right? And essentially, he would probably have Crystal Palace as the main team, as like the quote-unquote NHL team and the MLB team. Lyon is probably the AAA team. Botafogo is the AA team, and Molenbeek is the single A team. And he would move players in and amongst that. But the thing is, in American sports, they have a draft. So you draft a player, and then you can put him down in these lower leagues and then develop him up. Whereas you sign players that are like 11 years old, 11 and unders, 12 and unders, right? For Crystal Palace, and then you move them up from within your own club. And that's where you kind of get that feature in. But if he wants to add this in, it's going to really wreck it. And we saw this at Newcastle being able to potentially do this, with the owners owning other teams in Saudi Arabia, where they can move players from Saudi Arabia into Newcastle in various ways to like avoid transfer markets and stay within financial fair play. And it won't be fair to other teams if that's able to happen. Other teams, for instance, if you look at Chelsea, like with Todd Boehly, he's destroyed that football club. It's a manager carousel there. It's just like in American sports. Like if he also is a partner of the Lakers, they have a head coach carousel, and he wants to create kind of a head coach vibe at Chelsea. He doesn't want to have a manager vibe there. He wants to have a head coach vibe, which will allow him to have more control, give the board more control, make his own transfers, all that type of thing. He wants to throw a ton of money at it, right? He's a part owner of the Dodgers as well. The Dodgers, you can throw a ton of money at it because it's baseball. There's no financial fair play. Like there's a luxury tax, and I mean you can pay out of that luxury tax, but you just signed Shohei Ohtani for $700 million. So you can kind of buy your way to victories there. But in the Premier League, and football as a whole, it takes a lot more kind of skill and finesse. You can't just buy players and expect them to do well. He spent over £1 billion, and they're absolutely terrible. So why would you want to keep that going? And teams like Burnley, who have American ownership that come from the Championship up into the Premier League, forced Vincent Kompany to play a certain style, and they went right back down. And everyone thought, they're guaranteed to stay up, but they forced them into playing a certain way, getting more views, trying to grow their audience outside of it, not really try to generate a decent football club and a long-standing football club. And it's a big issue. They get Liverpool's, they're owned by Fenway Sports Group, who own the Boston Red Sox. And Boston Red Sox have famously been pretty cheap. They let go of Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, all these types of players that have left. And if you look at Liverpool, let's get these guys in the cheap, let's try to develop them and make them really, really good. And then they spent big on players like Darwin Núñez, and it's not really helped them out. So it's another American owner, and they're one of the better ones. If they had success under Klopp and stuff, but what's that success going to look like down the Klopp's left? Are they going to diminish? Are they going to keep going? And again, they're an American owner. But now, if we're looking at an American owner that actually runs teams well in America, you look at Stan Kroenke, who he runs the Nuggets, who again draft and develop and have a juggernaut team. They lost this year in the NBA playoffs, but they were last year's champion. They have the Colorado Avalanche, again, draft and develop players like Nathan McKinnon, who was drafted, viewed as a bust, and now is one of the best players in the NHL. And they're, again, got eliminated, but they've recently won a Stanley Cup. He owns the Colorado Rapids, and he owns the Los Angeles Rams. And again, Los Angeles Rams, he gambled, made a big bet, and it paid off for them. Obviously, they're kind of dealing with it now, but again, he had good systems in place where they make this huge bet on, let's win the Super Bowl right now. They win it, and then they're still not garbage. They made the playoffs they were close, and he runs this team very well. So when we look at Arsenal, it's run very well. They gave Arteta the leash. It allows him to kind of move and pivot, and he runs it again more sustainably, which is what we've seen in Premier Leagues. That's how it kind of works. If you run sustainably, you're going to do well, right? Going back to the Man United crisis, Old Trafford's falling apart. The Glazers refuse to pay for it. If you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stadium, it's not all that well off better. It's a lot of player power with the Manchester United. When Brady was there was a ton of player power. Brady kind of got who he wanted. It did end up winning them a Super Bowl. But the next season, 9-8. And the season after that, and they're kind of diminishing. So a good kind of warning for Premier League teams going forward is, do you really want to sell to an American owner who, if you look at his previous sports record, might not be doing the best, right? Do you want to end up in a team where your players might be freely moving to, the quote-unquote AAA teams and the AA teams that these owners are suggesting, like John Textor suggesting? Like, for instance, what if Michael Elise, he's like, well, Lyon's not doing too good right now. Let's just move him on to Lyon right now from Crystal Palace, and that hurts the Crystal Palace season, right? Or if you're a Lyon fan, if you're and a player's having a good season, and then he moves him up to the Crystal Palace, which is the quote-unquote MLB team. It's ridiculous, and these American owners are causing more and more issues. There was a potential for the American owners trying to rally together and create an all-star type of game, which would add more and more game time onto these players' legs, and would kind of make it a joke. The Premier League, the gloriousness of the Premier League is it's been the same way for so long, and it's operated in such a great way with promotion and demotion, right? In America, they don't have to deal with promotion and demotion, right? If you're in the MLB, you're in the MLB. Even the Oakland Athletics are in the MLB, and their owner, he just turns the lights on and makes money. Like, that's all it is, right? If you're in the NHL, you're in the NHL. You can't ever drop down to the AHL, right? But in the Premier League, you can drop down to the Championship, League One, League Two, the National League North and stuff. You go all the way down. You've got to run your team differently. And if these American owners don't want to do that, it's going to ruin the Premier League going forward. It's going to ruin other clubs around the world, right? Manchester United is trying to save themselves by bringing in, the Glazers are trying to sell to Sir Ratcliffe, and that's not looking too well. They're like debating firing Ten Hag. I really want to know your guys' opinion. If you're a fan of a Premier League team, be it, Fulham, who also have an American owner, or Manchester United, who are a bigger club and have American owners, how do you feel about your American owners? Are you still Glazers out? Are you still trying to, work back into getting a more of a typical English-British owner to maybe help sustain you guys more, that actually knows the ins and the outs of how the Premier League works? Because really, every single experimental team that we've seen with an American ownership is not doing well. Arsenal's kind of the only example where we're seeing genuine, consistent success. But if you look at their owner, he's got genuine, consistent success with every single American sports franchise that he owns. And that's my take. I'd love to know your opinion. Do you want American owners, or do you want them banned from the Premier League? I personally would love to see them banned from the Premier League. Get them out, because they're absolutely ruining the sport itself.